Hello all. This tutorial is going to show you how you can use Black Heritage materials on Europeana to create a digital collage. My name is Marika Everts and I am coordinator of Europeana's Black History Month season. And in October of 2024, we collaborated with artist Lela Hariss to host a digital collage workshop using Black Heritage materials from Europeana as a way to celebrate and highlight historical people and events using creativity and visual storytelling. The workshop, which was recorded and is used in this tutorial, provides simple tools and techniques in digital collage making, and is especially good for beginners. However, anyone who's advanced in digital collage making can still find inspiration in the materials used in this tutorial. In this tutorial, you will learn about how to search for materials on Europeana and what licenses are okay for creative use. You will learn simple tools to use in the making of digital collage so that you can then make your own collages and contribute to creative works on Black history. You can use the search bar on Europeana and employ Boolean operators, which basically mean typing out and or not, for complex queries to narrow down your results or also widen them out. You also have filters on the right side where you will see the theme, type of media, and can I use this? For creative purposes, you always want to click yes. You also have additional filters where you can also narrow down what kind of licenses you want to see the results of. You also have at the very top advanced search, and there you can search for who, what, where, and when. We also have other search tips for you. If you have multiple words, you can try using quotation marks. If you're not getting enough results, you can also try related terms using or. If you're getting too many results, add more terms using and or use the filter. You can also try different languages to get different results. You can also use our tips on how to search Europeana. The link is provided in the description. When searching for items on Europeana, you've got search filters on the right-hand side and a text box that says, "Can I use this?" Always click yes, because this will allow you to filter out items that are openly licensed and completely available to use for creative purposes like collage making. Once you've found your image, always double check the license of the image below. So for example, we've got the James Baldwin image right here and it's in public domain. And that basically means that it's openly licensed and completely ready to use for making collages. You've also got the download button on the right-hand side, which allows you to download the image. There are a lot of different types of licenses attached to items on Europeana. What you need to know is that everything in the green box allows you to adapt on and reuse the items, even commercially. One thing to bear in mind though is public domain marked CC0 and CC BY also allow you to change the license of your new creation, while CC BY SA means that you need to share this new creation exactly as the license of the original item that you used. So your new creation would also have to be under CC BY SA. And bear in mind that that also means that anyone can use your new creation and also use it commercially. So in making digital collage, you might want to consider what kind of openly licensed items you are looking at and using for your new creations. In our Black Heritage Gallery, which is also provided as a link in the description, you will find images as you see them here that you can use for digital collage making. To prepare for the tutorial, you will need the first 3 links provided on this page. So the Black Heritage Gallery, as mentioned before, you can have a look through that and download any images that you like and might think would be cool for collage making. You can also follow Lela step by step in recreating the collage that she created, and we've provided a link to those images as well that you can download. And you will also need the free digital collage software tool Photopea, also provided in the description. Now, the other links are things that you don't specifically need for this tutorial, but if you're curious about how to find more open content on Europeana, we have a link of that on our Europeana page. You also might be interested in learning more about licensing and copyright, and we have a training course on that, mostly geared towards cultural heritage institutions, but anyone interested in learning more about licensing and copyright is also free to take part. As you get your materials ready to create your collage, let me introduce you to Lela Hariss. Lela is an artist originally from Manchester, now living in the Lake District. Her artworks are inspired by documentary photography, historical research, and her imagination using different mediums. Her creative practice is driven by a desire to uncover the stories of those often overlooked and marginalized by history.
Thanks for coming to the workshop and being interested in learning how to do a digital collage on Photopea. And we're, as it's Black History Month, we'll be focusing on celebrating pioneering Black women is the main theme for my collage. As mentioned by Marika, I am an artist based in the UK, and although collage isn't central to my practice, I really like doing collage. So this is a fantastic opportunity for me to get to know a free online digital software called Photopea, which is kind of like a mashup between Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator, if anyone's used them. So I'll be walking you through my collage and the reasons why I chose the pieces I did, as well as teaching you some basic tools. So if I talk you through my collage first, it's basically made up of several references from the Europeana website, and I've chosen to focus on women because I think they're often overlooked within history, and especially Black history. So if you can see here, I'm going to make it a bit bigger, I've popped Josephine Baker on the Brooklyn Bridge. Josephine Baker was a pioneering performer, activist, and actually was in the French Resistance and World War II. So I've placed her on top of the Brooklyn Bridge to symbolize her start in Broadway. I've also got an image of Mary Seacole down here, and she was a pioneering British Jamaican nurse from the 1800s, and was basically as famous as Florence Nightingale but was excuse me, overlooked mainly because of the colour of her skin until recently. So it's really nice to celebrate her work and what she did using herbal remedies on the battlefield. And then I wanted to highlight early Black presence within Europe. So I found a Dutch engraving that I've also incorporated into my collage. So I'm going to teach you how to use this open source software, which is called Photopea. So hopefully you are now on the website, or if you haven't got two screens, you can go back and open it later. So to start a new file, you basically go to the left-hand side and select File. You go to New, and you can see there's lots of different templates here for lots of different types of documents. So if you were creating a collage for social media, there's lots of different templates here for Instagram and Facebook. But what we're going to do is focus on creating something for print today. So if we go select the A4 document, you can see here on this side, you can manipulate the size of your artboard, and you can also manipulate the DPI, which is basically the kind of print quality of your image. So if you're wanting to do something that you can print and create your own postcards or leaflets or flyers, then 300 DPI is really good quality for you to be able to make commercial items from. So we'll create one of those. So you've got your blank screen or your blank artboard, and basically what we're going to be creating today is kind of like a collage lasagna. We're going to be working in lots of different layers. So the bottom of our lasagna is basically a blank layer, and to kind of we're going to build up from here to basically this end result. And I'm going to talk you through the different tools that I've used. So the first tool that we're going to use is the shape tool, which you can see on the left-hand side here. If you right-click on that tool, you get different options for different shapes. So we're going to use the rectangle tool to create our first layer of our lasagna. So once you have created your shape on your artboard, you can see here that that's layer 1 in your lasagna background layer. Let's think of that as your casserole dish. And the pink shape at the minute is going to be our bottom layer. So I'm not really keen on this color, so I'm going to change the shape color. So if you click back on the shape icon, you can either change the color by clicking on the fill button at the top, but none of these colors are quite right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my selection tool, which is the top left-hand arrow with a cross next to it. And you can see above that, it should say, you should click the option for auto select and transform tools, and then you'll be able to adjust the size of your bottom layer. But because I don't like the color, if you double click on your shape layer on the right-hand side, layer 1, you can see here that you get a color picker tool. So I'd really like a nice duck egg blue. So I'm going to mess around, just keep clicking on colors that you like. You can use the slider to move it up and down to change the colors. And I'm going to go for more blue, I think. More blue. No, I'm going to go lighter blue. Let's go. Okay, so I really like this color. You can also, if you know what specific color you want, you can enter your CMYK values, which is your cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Or you can make a note of this if you're going to create another shape with the same color later on. Click OK, and that's the bottom layer of your collage. I really like when I'm making collage to give texture to the layers that I'm using, which are digital, to make it look more like paper. So I'm now going to create another texture layer to sit over the top. So to do this, Photopea has this fab free kind of gallery where you can use different reference material, which are all free to use. So if you click on this kind of mountain icon with the sun on it, there's a whole raft of different images that you can use to put into your collage. So if you type in, let's say, old paper. So I've typed that into the box, the keyword search at the top, press return, and then there's lots of different types of images available to you. I really like this image here of old paper. So all you have to do is to click the button, and then it drops it into your document. To get rid of this gallery view, click back onto the mountains and the star, and it will disappear. But you can't see the old paper that you've dropped in yet because it's on the bottom layer. So we're going to move the layer up to the top, and now you can see it above your shape color. Now, it doesn't look very pretty at the minute. So what we're going to do is we're going to stretch it out so it fills the whole piece of paper. And then we are going to change the transparency of this layer. So basically we want the piece of paper to be see-through, so we see a bit of the blue underneath. So on the layers panel, you'll see a button that says, a drop-down menu, it says normal at the top. If you click this, it will give you lots of different transparency options. So my favorite transparency option is multiply. And so you select that, and already you can see that it's changed the transparency of the old paper layer that you've popped on top. So it's still not kind of showing us as much blue as we'd like. So next to the multiply button, there's an opacity button, and that's basically how see-through an item, a digital item, is on your screen. So if you adjust this by just clicking on the slider, you can bring that right down. And now you can see, like, you can add as much or as little texture as you would like. So I think, well, 30% looks good because I can see the blue, but I can see a bit of the photo texture. So now, next to the layer that I've added the old paper, there's like a eyeball icon. If you click this, you can see what it would look like without the texture added. So if you click on, click off. So that you can mess around with this to see if you would like to include the element that you've just added or not. So I kind of like the look of this now. I might, in fact, just turn down the opacity a tiny bit. And that to me now looks more like an old piece of blue paper that you've just discovered in a dusty drawer. So it's quite nice to have that on there. So now our next tool is, well, our next job really is to add one of our references that we found on the Europeana website. So I'm going to add in now the image I found of the Brooklyn Bridge in New York for my Josephine Baker element. So to add a file, if you go to File on the left-hand side, and if you click Open and Place, it should bring up your Finder. I'm on a Mac, so it's the Finder view, but it will bring up where you keep your files. So I've been very good. I'm not normally like this, but I've actually titled all the different references so I know which one to drop in. So I am looking for the Brooklyn Bridge. So you select that and then you just click upload and it should drop it into your collage. As you can see, it's dropped it into the bottom layer again. So all you need to do is drag that up, bottom layer, and now you can see your bridge at the top. So at the minute, there is quite a lot of space around this item. And in fact, I only was interested in the bridge itself. So I'm going to show you another tool to be able to cut the background out of this. It looks like an old negative image, actually, which I found on the website. So to stop things moving around, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock the background layers. So shape 1, I'm going to use, if you go up to where the layers are, there should be like a little padlock icon. I'm going to click that, which means my layer now shouldn't move when I try to click on something else. I'm hoping that's worked. Let's have a look. And I'm also going to use my padlock tool to keep that in place. Okay, so on the left hand side, I'm going to go find my magical lasso tool. So if you click on this item, if you right click on it, it gives you lots of different options. And if you're familiar with Photoshop, you might have experience of using these different select items. My favorite one is this one. So I'm going to use this, and it's quite hard to see. So I don't know if you can see, but if you can see the crosshairs here, basically all I'm doing is selecting the part of the image that I'm interested in, and it's creating this kind of tracing outline. So there's the line. So if you click on parts of your image, keep going, this is the bit. It's basically like a pair of scissors that is going to cut out, and you can be as neat or as messy as you want to be. I quite like being a tiny bit messy so you can see the bit of the background, because then it looks to me more like something you've done with a pair of scissors, which I think is more interesting. So you click around your item. I've gone right to the bottom. I'm now here at the top. If you've made a mistake, if you press the delete button, it'll take you back to your last anchor point. So when you finish, you go back to the place that you started from and you click the spot. And now you can see a very faint little highlighted section around the area that you selected. If you right click and click layer via copy, what you have now is 2 layers. You've got your original layer that you started out with and the cutout layer. And if you select the eyeball tool, you can see which element that we've cut out. So click on it again, it should come back. Okay, click on it off. And now I'm going to click on the bit that I don't need. So I'm going to go click on the Brooklyn Bridge Europeana layer, and at the bottom, for my cursor down, there's like a bin icon. So I'm going to put that in the bin. So now I'm just left with this icon. So the lasso tool was the 3rd tool from the top. So now we have our bridge. And to move my bridge about, I'm going to select the move tool at the top. I've got auto select and transform controls selected at the top. I can make this bigger. I can make it smaller. I can move it around the screen. And I can also mess around with the transparency of this layer as well. So having selected that layer, if I go back to layers again, and click on this drop down menu, if I click on multiply, you can change the transparency of that layer. So basically we've made that photograph, all the white space in that photograph disappear and absorb into the layer underneath. So that's why it looks blue. So I'll change it back to normal again so you can see. Normal. I'm going to change it back to multiply. There is other options. So you can change to, I wonder if screen will do something. Screen will change the transparency level as well. So it's really good just to have a play around with this and see what happens and see which effects that you like. Personally, I really like the multiply tool. So we're going to go back with that one. So now we've got our bridge. Let me click back to my photo. I think it's now time to add in some of these different textures to start getting a layered effect. So we're going to go back into the gallery with the free items in on Photo P, and this time I'm going to type in torn paper. Again, you get loads of different options here for you to use in your collage, and I really like this bit of really old brown paper. So click onto the item, it's dropped it in here. So now I need to get rid of this screen by clicking back onto the mountain. You can't see this currently because it's at the bottom of the lasagna, so we need to move it up the layers. So now we're going to move it up till it's under the bridge, and to do that you're just dragging with your mouse up to where you'd like your layer situated. As you can see, because we've got the multiply tool in terms of transparency, this image of the bridge sits really nicely on top of there now. So I'm just going to make my bit of paper smaller and move it around. Again, with collage, as if you've done collage before, I think you spend more time moving bits of paper around than you do necessarily cutting things out. So this is a bit formulaic because I'm working backwards from the collage that I've already made. But when I worked on it, I probably spent 2 or 3 hours just moving bits of paper around, dropping in images to see if they worked, taking the images out. So take your time basically when you're working on your own collage, and experiment with different transparency levels and items to find your perfect fit. Really, you are your own boss of your collage. So I'm going to leave that there, this piece in now. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a slightly more complicated reference from the Europeana website. So I'm going to click off my layer. Let's see, there we go. Command D. Right. Okay. So File, Open and Place, because we're going to place another image that we've got on our computer hard drive onto the Photo P website. So Open and Place. And I really want to try out the engraving. So select my engraving, click Upload, and it'll drop it in. So this is now on the top layer. So now the challenge is to cut this out from the background. You might, if you're working on this, you might be quite happy with the way it looks currently. You might not want to cut it out at all, but I kind of like the effect. If we're going to click back onto my old one here of her sat amongst all these old papers. So I'm going to have a go at cutting her out. Just to say, if you are working on 2 screens and you're struggling a little bit, sometimes Photo P can be a bit glitchy, and that's because it's an open source software. So if you're working on an item and it keeps getting stuck using various tools, do not panic. It's that it has done that to me quite a few times, so it's not just you. What usually helps is if you shut down anything else that you've been working on, and just have Photo P open, and you've also got a good Wi-Fi connection, that usually sorts things out. If you're worried about losing your information, then you can save your collage, and to do that you double click on the tab for where your project is, and you can type in any file name. So I'm going to put Lela Hariss collage, click OK, and then that's the name of my file. And then you just go to File and then Save as PSD, which is a Photoshop document, and then that's saved automatically to your computer a word of warning, those files are pretty big, just so you know. So you need a decent amount of space on your computer to save that file. You can then re-upload that file in Photopea anytime you want. So I think to share, to save every now and again is probably a good idea. And I'm only saving now because the last time I used this reference, because it's quite a large file, it crashed. So we will now pray to the digital collage gods that it will let me cut this item out. So I'm going to go back to get the lasso tool, which is the third tool from the top. I'm going to click on it. And now can you see the crosshairs? That means I'm ready to start tracing. If you press, I'm on a Mac, so for me it's Command plus, and that will enlarge my screen. And it's going to be quite difficult for you to see how I trace this out just because the background is so pixelated. But basically I'm doing the same as what I did with the bridge. So I find myself a start point, and all I'm doing with my mouse is clicking on the areas that I want to cut out with my scissors. So I'm tracing round her head at the minute. It's going to be really hard for you to see. I tried to get the crosshair or the cursor to be a different color, but that was beyond my technical skills. So you'll just have to trust me that I am actually tracing this out. But I think this is a super beautiful engraving, and it's a great way to show early Black presence in Europe, which, strangely enough, I think many people in the UK think that Black people only came to Europe during Windrush, which is in the 1950s, but in fact, we've been in Europe for a very long time. So I think it's super important to highlight that. So I'm just clicking around her shoulders now. I hope this is not too boring for you to watch me clicking on a screen that you might not be able to do. But I'm just at her ear now. I need to make my way back to her headdress. And as you can see, I'm not doing this that neatly because I kind of like it when it's a bit higgledy-piggledy. I think it looks more authentic when you're making a digital collage. Okay, I'm nearly back at the start point now. There we go. So I'm back at the start point. So you can see this halo that's appeared around my cutout section. I'm going to right click it. I'm going to put layer via copy. Layer number 3 has got my cutout of the engraving, and the layer underneath is my original image. So if I use the eyeball key, you can see what I've cut out there. So now I know I don't need this background layer. I'm just going to delete it. So I select the layer, and then I go down to the bin icon and delete it. And then I'm going to zoom back out, and now you can see we've got this very cool collage element. And again, you can just use the corners to make her bigger or smaller in terms of placement. And then I'm going to place her just under the bridge here. And then when I was working on this last time, I was like, I really like this. Like, I like what direction it's heading in. But I would really like to add a pop of color. So then I decided, I'm going to go back into my image, I was going to add this pink layer behind her. So to do that, you need to go back onto the shape tool, which is the same tool we used right at the beginning when we made this blue background element. So go right down to the bottom on the toolbar, click the shape tool. You need to right click to get the different options for the different shapes. So I'm going to use an ellipse tool. And then I'm going to make a circle. If you press, Option Shift on your keyboard, that should keep your circle perfect in terms of its dimensions. Now you can see, because it's at the top layer of my collage lasagna, it's blocking everything out. So I need to drag my yellow circle below my engraving, and then it will sit beneath her. To be able to change the color, again, if you double click on the shape, you'll be able to select what colors you like. This row here is colors that you've used previously. So we can use this nice pink color that I used before. Again, you could use your swatches, or you can click on any element on this side and change the color that way as well. So I'm just going to go back to that. Click OK, and you got your shape. but you've got your shape, but the shape's blocking out the bridge. So again, if you go back onto your layers on the transparency mode, you can click multiply and you can now see the bridge detail from behind. If you click on the corners, you can drag it in to make it smaller or bigger. And then you can just play around with moving items. I'm cheating a little bit because I've actually got a printout of my collage on my desk so I can recreate it. But like I said, with collage, it's the fun of it is moving things around constantly and seeing how it feels on the piece of paper, in terms of proportions, in terms of layers. I mean, you might decide that actually it should look really cool up here on top of the bridge. So you could pop it there as well. Like I said, if you weren't happy with that and you didn't want to go back, figure out where you had it before, if you press Command Z, it'll move it back to what position you had it previously. I'm going to teach you how to use the magic wand tool. So I'm going to go to File and use another item that I found on the website. So File, Open in Place, takes you back to my computer, and I'm going to use the old letter that's been, which is in the gallery that you've got access to. So click Upload. And there we go. So it doesn't look like it's happened, but it has in fact come to the bottom layer again. So you can just move this letter up. Let's move it up. There we go. So it's quite big, so I'm going to make it smaller by dragging the top right-hand corner down. And then, as you can see on this artifact that's come from the website, it's been scanned in. So there's a bit of white paper, background of the scan. So we're going to use the magic wand tool, which is on the left-hand side. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4th tool down. Click on the magic wand tool. And you probably want to change your tolerance here. And your tolerance is basically how effective your wand is. So like in terms of spell casting, how powerful it is. So if you want to put in 40, that will help to distinguish the tool. So in terms of how it selects between the actual thing, the actual artifact and the background. So you just type in 40 at the top and then use your cursor because you've got your wand selected and click onto the white background element. So now you should be able to press the delete button and it's telling you that you need to do something with this object. So it's telling you need to rasterize it, which is basically, I think, a fancy term for turning it into a different type of file. I don't know the technical speak, but I'm sure somebody in the group who's very au fait with Photoshop knows what that means. I'm just going to click on OK, which now should mean that the background is deleted, but again, it can sometimes be a bit glitchy. So I'm going to press Command D, and there you can see it's got rid of the background. So it was white before, and then I used the magic wand to select the whiteness, and then I pressed delete, and that got rid of the background. It cut it off. If you press Command D, because I've still got the wand selected, so currently it's trying to select the rest of the letter. So just press Control D or Command D if you're on an Apple and go back to your move tool. So now you can move this letter around and you can play around with where you would like it. I like it here, but I'd like to see more of my brown paper. So I'm going to click on my brown paper and I'm going to move it out to the side. There we go. And then you can just keep adding on different layers actually, and building up. So I think while we're coming to the end of me talking, I'll be kind of adding more elements in. So I'm going to add Mary Seacole in. I'm going to cut her out. I'm also going to cut out a botanical image that I found on the Europeana website, which I'm then going to cut out and place behind this statue of Mary Seacole. And then I'm going to draw a little halo on above Mary Seacole because she rocked and she, funded her own way onto the battlefield, battled racism and sexism to get where she is today. So I think it's really important that we celebrate her, and that's how I've chosen to do it.
Thank you for watching this tutorial, and we're really curious to see what you've created. So please feel free to share your creations with us by emailing me or tagging us on our social media channels. If you're using the Black Heritage Gallery in future to make other creations, please feel free again to share them with us either online by tagging Europeana or emailing me. Thank you very much again, and wishing you a very lovely creative day.